Welcome to the UpTiiCK podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lambert, and get ready for another episode featuring great CEOs, public company leaders, marketing mavens, and entrepreneurs. That's what's up. Hello, all my listeners of the UpTiiCK podcast. I'm Jeff Lambert, your host, and I'm here today with David Meltzer, the co-founder of Sports One Marketing, formerly served as CEO of the renowned Leigh Steinberg Sports Entertainment agency, which you all would know as the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money. I'm sure you've never heard that before, David. But he's considered to be one of the top esports entrepreneurs and investors. He's a three-time international best-selling author, top 100 business coach, host of the top entrepreneur podcast, The Playbook, which he was so gracious to have me on, and executive producer of the Bloomberg and Apple TV series 2-Minute Drill. What I really want to talk about, though, David, and welcome to the show, is your life mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. Talk to me about that.
Of course. Well, the objective that I have is based off of the fastest growing cause of death in America in all demographics, suicide. We have an anxiety, depression, and suicide problem that its own endemic, if not pandemic. And it's one that we can cure. What's happening is that we are losing a sense of our values, and no one's there to support us with proper daily practices. And the reason I know that is I've had to re-engineer my own. I've had quite a journey in my life with being a millionaire 9 months out of law school, selling and being part of our first exit of $3.4 billion to Thomson Reuters, to running Samsung's phone division in 1999, in my early 30s, and then running, like you said, the most notable sports agency in the world. Through that journey, I lost the key values that I teach to create this collective consciousness. And the way I'm going to do it is to find 1,000 people like you, Jeff, 1,000 people that can empower 1,000 to empower 1,000 to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. And I think those are the three criteria of happiness in this pragmatic world, reconciling with the inspirational world, no matter what religion, philosophy, or spirituality you believe in. If we can teach people to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have fun, there'll be just a collective consciousness of happiness, and the whole world will change.
I totally agree with you on the whole happiness piece. I read a book called The Happiness Advantage, an actual science that says happiness affects our health, it affects our relationships, it affects our success, and obviously, your turnaround transformation, the ups and downs have obviously, in fact, affected you. So talk to me about, entrepreneur turned now coach and giving back to others. Talk to me about that transition.
Yeah, well, I'm still an entrepreneur, right? I probably do more entrepreneurial things, but in a different way, much more productive, much more accessible, much more gracious. And I will stress gracious, meaning gratitude, because gratitude is the common denominator of happiness, no matter how sick or well, tall or short, no matter what religion, spirituality, no matter how rich or poor you are, gratitude is the common denominator of happiness. And so I shifted my paradigm quite simply 2 years before I lost everything, 2006. I went on a journey. My wife was the catalyst for this journey to shift the paradigm from trying to be wealthy. I had over $100 million at the time. Be healthy. I thought I was healthy. And to be worthy, to I am healthy. I am happy. I am worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? And through the last 16 years of this journey, I've been able to figure out what I was doing to interfere with my happiness, my health, my wealth, and my worthiness, and teach others to do the same. As an entrepreneur, very simply, it's shifting a paradigm of providing value. But not just providing value to be an entrepreneur, but to provide value well, to provide it with quantitative value, to exceed what we're asking for. And then because of the social media aspect and building my own brand through TV shows, movies, podcasts, speeches, coaching, books, all the different things that I do, through that, I'm able not only to quantitatively provide value to exceed what I'm asking for, doing it well, but also to many. And there's two laws that I go by. The law of potential is that quantitative value that you're serving, but the laws of profitability are how many people can you serve with that quantitative value well. If you could serve a lot of people, whether you're an artist, musician, an actor, a financial planner, those people who serve the most value to the most people make the most money. Therefore, they can help the most people and they have the most fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I mean, so you talk about value consulting is a bit of your mantra. You just nailed it. Is what does that mean? And that was one of my questions. Is what value consulting in? And you hit on so many topics there, including a very unpopular one for CEOs like us and other entrepreneurs that support, which is to talk about ourselves as, hey, we're flawed. We need self-love. We need to believe in ourselves, not just get that affirmation from others outside. And that's really an important aspect and frankly, really authentic. And I don't hear a lot of coaches talking about that, is that encouragement and that piece of it. So where does someone like you go for coaching and inspiration? So you are the coach. Who's the coach go to?
Yeah, so I'm blessed. I believe that I always should have coaches. I've taken a step back into the necessities to be alive. I have a non-negotiable of health. That's a minimum of an hour a day on my health. So what I did is I've always believed to have mentors, people who sit in the situation that you want to be in, people that can already pay the dummy tax for you. The fastest way to get to where I want to be is find someone that's already there and ask them for directions. So recently, my coaches and mentors have really been focused in on the health side of it. What does that mean? Well, you need nutrition to stay alive. So I have the top nutritionist as a coach about what nutrition I should have. You need hydration to stay alive. You need food, you need water. So I use my nutrition coach to also help me make sure that I'm hydrated correctly. You need to breathe to live. And so I have a breathing coach, a meditation coach that has been just a godsend. I would say, if somebody would have told me I'd have a breathing or a meditation coach 10 years ago, I would have laughed them out of the room. Very, very valuable mentor for me. And then finally, the most important mentor that I have is one that most people ignore. One of the frustrations I have in my journey to empower people on a mission to be happy is that most people go to bed at night and wake up more tired the next morning. They don't realize that on average, 26 years of your life is spent sleeping. So I have a sleep mentor, a sleep coach, because not only do I travel 200 days a year to understand nutrition, hydration, breathing while you're traveling, but sleep. I wake up and plateau and grow. In fact, I've shifted the paradigm of my life. My tomorrow starts today. So people ask me what time I wake up at. I said, that's not a concern of mine. My concern is having an unwinding routine to make sure I pass out the night before by a certain time. Understanding how sleep cycles work, I'm always going to be awake by 4 a.m. Pacific time at the minimum because I am in a strong regimen, a strong discipline of unwinding, starting my day the day before, according to the man-made construct calendar and time.
No, that's great. Like planful sleep as a part of your overall effectiveness and success. And that's really awesome. And let's take that kind of flip turn from we were talking business, we're talking health. What about family? Last time you and I talked about the value of relationships and the value of your family. And what's that secret? So you're talking about sleep and focus on the regimen. What's that secret to family?
Well, first of all, to understand your health, you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of your family. So I will reiterate, when you're healthy, you get 1 million wishes a day, including wishes for your family. But if you're unhealthy, not only do you only have one wish, but now you become a burden on your family. So the integration of my relationship and focusing on my family is focusing, as you stated earlier, on myself, living in radical humility, taking care of myself so I can take care of others. The second non-negotiable in my life, though, is the people most relative to me, my family. And so therefore, as a non-negotiable, I utilize time once again, just like I spend a minimum of an hour a day on my health, I spend a minimum amount of time with the people most important to me. 30 minutes minimum with my wife, 30 minutes, 7 days a week, 30 minutes minimum with my 11-year-old son every day. 2 minutes minimum hours, because I get shit from people like, you only spend 2 minutes with your 3 teenage daughters. No, minimum. And if you have teenage daughters, shit, I'm lucky to get
Good
2
luck.
minutes.
Good
I
luck
asked for
tracking them
5.
down that quickly. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. But more importantly, 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. Staying consistently connected to and through the most relative people. And then the best piece of advice I have for people, I spend a minimum of a minute a day with my mom every day. And I just tell her 4 things that has healed my relationship, a relationship I found that's most interfered with, parent to child, mostly mother to son, are very interfered with relationships. There's a lot of baggage in those relationships. But I've healed mine because I call my mom every day, a minimum of 1 minute a day, tell her 4 things. I tell her I'm healthy because that's her chief concern. It already is putting her at ease from dis-ease. I tell her I'm happy, her second objective of mine, putting her even further at ease out of dis-ease. Then I tell her I love her, further putting her at ease. And then finally, that I appreciate her, that she adds value to my life every day. If you communicate to the people most important to you, especially your parents, that you're healthy, happy, you love them and appreciate them, it will put them at ease. It will dissipate or dissolve the interference called dis-ease that so many of us share with such an important relationship. My second non-negotiable, still related to my first non-negotiable, my health, is those that are relative to me. So I use a weighted balance system to give it a minimum amount of time every day. So after I take care of myself, I will only take care of my family. Then I'll get to the activity I get paid for.
Oh, that's great. It almost feels I hear you saying it's like concentric circles with yourself in the middle, take care there, then the people that are most important to me, and then really decide who's in those other circles. And sometimes that may not be the people who think they're in, right? Is who are adding value and who can you add value to? So talk about that for a second on, talking about taking care of yourself and your family, but then you transition outside of your smaller community into your larger community as an investor in startups and public companies and, teaming up with celebrities, now crypto, how do you choose companies to invest in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you talked about this great chain of feeding. How do we figure out what's important to us? I figure it out by understanding I want to surround myself with the things that feed me the most. And I want to either allow the things to fall away or fire the things that bleed me. And in fact, 80% of most people's time is spent on things that bleed them. It's a natural and energetic focus that really creates so much resistance, voids, and shortages in our lives by allowing people and ideas and content to bleed us when we should spend our time on what feeds us. So what I do is I use 5 daily practices to determine what feeds me. So the first is, what do I want today according to my mid and long-term objectives? What do I want personally, experientially, giving wise to provide value, receiving wise, which is really important because most humble people think being humble is not receiving, not asking. It's counterintuitive. It's the exact opposite. You can't give what you don't have. So I'm asking for more and more because I believe in a value add world, not a zero sum world. I'm not trading or negotiating quid pro quo. I'm not giving to receive. I'm receiving more so I can give more. It's that simple. Once you know your what, then you simply decide, who can I help with what I want and who can help me with what I want? Once I know my who, now I can determine that how. What do I have planned? What do I don't have planned? What about my sleep? How can I be productive, accessible, and gracious with my time using the great chain of feeding to determine the 4th step? What should I do now? Prioritization is the antidote to procrastination. It is also the antidote to feeling overwhelmed. Because if you know your what, your who, and your how, you'll know what's important to you, and you'll be able to utilize your time with the productivity, accessibility, and gratitude that you want. You'll be more efficient, more effective, more statistically successful, utilizing every minute towards the mid and long-term goals that you have today, and not being afraid of being a hypocrite, making mistakes, failures, setbacks that will allow you to learn lessons so that you can change your mind. It's a good thing when you change your mind. It means you learned something. It means you've accelerated and grown.
Right.
Now, if you know that what, who, how, and you are prioritizing. This is how we allow to apply our why. This is where I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy come in. I just have to figure out what I'm doing to interfere with my what, my who, my how, and my now. This is how we determine the great chain of feeding.
Yeah, so you apply that, and you want to be engaged, add value to those investments. If we're applying it there, do you even look at public companies? Because again, you have much less influence. I guess we play a game. What's in your portfolio?
Right.
But is that something that you can have an impact on?
So it's not an impact that I look for. I kind of twisted your last question around because you did specifically ask about investment. So I want to answer that directly. In order for all my investments, I have changed my strategy. I first look at my own timing and risk tolerance. Right. I find that whether it's public companies, private companies, angel investing, whatever investments I make, crypto, NFT, it's always about my timing and risk tolerance. So what I do when I make an investment in a public company is I go ahead and I do an analysis of my timing and risk tolerance. And then I find a public company that's aligned with that timing and risk tolerance. Right? There's varying degrees of timing and risk tolerance in public companies. You know that better than I do.
Sure.
But what happens is most people don't realize that what we really want to do in investment and prospecting is align with our timing and risk tolerance. 90% of the people never even consider their timing and risk tolerance. So they're always disappointed. If they make money, they think they should have made more. If they lose money, they're disappointed beyond belief, even though the risk tolerance was aligned, even if they won or lost. Let me give you an example. Lottery tickets. See, if I know my timing and risk tolerance, that I'm going to win I'll know about winning the lottery. My investment ends on Saturday at 8 p.m., for example, with a lottery, and my investment's $2, and I can make or win $5 billion minus taxes, lump sum, et cetera, whatever that comes to. If I can $500 million win that with $2, and I have a 1 in a billion chance. So when I pay my $2 and they actually have the lottery on Saturday night at 8 o'clock and I lose, I should be happy, right? I got what I bargained for. See, if you know your timing and risk tolerance, how do you find it? You got to find people who sit in the situation that you want to be in that can give you correct information about a public stock and what the timing and risk tolerance is on that stock. And fortunately today, because we have such access to such mentorship, genius, et cetera, we can call people like you and say, hey, give me the timing and risk tolerance in this stock. I don't care about anything else for me. But I want to know about the CEO. I want to find someone that I trust that has done all the due diligence and vetted it and tell me, look, Dave, this is a hold for 6 years. This is the risk involved. You could lose everything, or you'll probably lose 50%. That's or the upside's 50%. Whatever it is, I'm math when it comes to investment. Therefore, I can make variant investments aligned with my timing and risk tolerance. So I own IULs and annuities, lottery tickets. I own everything, but it's percentage by my timing and risk tolerance, not by trusting what somebody else wants that's not aligned with what I want.
That's really cool to hear you talk about this kind of two sides of your brain of very rational on the investing side and very heart-led and values-led in really your entire life. I think spans into your investing as well. And, I just really appreciate hearing that perspective. Do you think there's a tie into your Akron, Ohio, Midwest roots of, hey, I'm a salt to the earth guy that harkens back to, I talk to my mom, I invest in my family, I live with heart. Again, we all arrive at that in different ways sometimes, and we're not always there. I can certainly confess to that. But is there something to that?
Oh, no doubt. There's an energetic and genetic inheritance from living in Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana. I think it's really funny that my daughters all want to go to school in the Midwest because they grew up with the Midwest energy in our home. So I think they feel very comfortable at those schools because they feel the same, right? They feel, even though it's cold as shit, they want to be there. We live in Southern California. So, you think about this girl's been born in San Diego. She thinks 68 degrees is cold. Why does she like Indiana or Ohio State or, Wisconsin? Well, because the energy of how they feel when they go there is the same that they were brought up in, which is the same that I was brought up in. It's an energetic and genetic inheritance of a different way to provide value and to be of service. It's a feeling and an energy, a collective consciousness. Absolutely. One of the biggest, greatest assets I have is I was born in Akron, Ohio.
I love it. Well, that's awesome. And I really appreciate having you on the show. Last question. So you're a ticker symbol. What's your 3 or 4 letter ticker symbol, David?
KIND. That easy. I think it's taken by Kind Bar, but that's the one I wanted.
I love it. I love it. Well, that certainly defines this, radical humility and what you're trying to how you're trying to change the world. And I think that's awesome and really appreciate your perspective. Great to see you. And thanks for being on.
I'll come back and please join me again. You were a terrific interview as well. Please remember, everyone, be of service or value, be kind to your future self, do good deeds. I am here of service and value. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for getting that plug in. I always want to be able to connect our listeners with our guests. Thanks, David.
Thank you.